Hello YouTube, it's Alston with the securitycameraguide.com, and today I'm going to tell you 10 common mistakes you might encounter when you're installing your security camera. Let's get started. Alright, as I mentioned in this video, I am going to go over 10 common mistakes that you may encounter when you're first installing your security camera. These are mistakes that I know that I made, and it forced me to spend additional time to go back and unscrew and reconfigure just so that everything was perfect and up and running. The worst thing that can happen is you go in with the mindset that you're going to take 2 hours for a project and you wind up taking two days. Unfortunately, that has happened to me a few different times, so I'm quite familiar with that problem. If you want to learn more about security cameras, video doorbells, all of those good things, head on over to the securitycameraguide.com, where I have a number of blogs and recommendations to help you get started in choosing the right home security camera system. All right, so number one, and again, this is 10 common mistakes that you may encounter when you are installing your security camera. Number one, installing your camera too high or too low. Now, there is a threshold, and depending on the camera that you purchase, it's between, I would say, probably 9 and 15 feet. Again, check the manufacturer's recommendations, but there is a certain height that you want to keep your security camera within. And the reason why is because that'll affect the angle in which the camera will pick up objects that are moving around. If it's set too high, it may not pick up things until they're either they're too far away or too close. If they're too low, they can be tampered with. So there's a number of issues. Definitely consult your manufacturer when you're installing it for the right height. I think 11 feet is probably optimal, but again, it really all depends. All right, number two. Actually, I think between like 9 and 10 feet is optimal now that I think about it. Number two, not having the correct accessories. Now, it's very important that before you unscrew or screw or even turn off a circuit breaker, you have everything that you need in front of you. Again, this will extend the length of time it takes you to install whatever it is. Again, you want to make sure you have the right screwdriver. You want to make sure that you have the appropriate length of cabling, regardless if it's an NVR, if it's a PoE or CCTV system. You need to make sure that you have everything that you need. A drywall repair kit, electrical tape. Make sure you have all of that handy, because again, you don't want to stop what you're doing to go to the store or have to phone a friend in order to have whatever you need brought to you. Not having the correct accessories will definitely extend the time it takes to install. Now, obviously, you can hire someone to do the install for you, and you don't have to worry about the second tip. But again, if you're planning on doing it yourself, as most people attempt to do, excuse me, at least on the first go around, make sure that you have everything that you need. What I like to do and what I've learned to do is lay out everything maybe a night before or the day before, either in the garage or the basement, and make sure that I have everything: a number 2 pencil, tape, drywall cutting kit, everything that you need. Make sure that you have it laid out so that you can just go and pick the part that you need when it comes time to use it. So that's number 2, not having the correct accessories. Number 3 is not having the correct router. Now, believe it or not all wireless security cameras, video doorbells, whatever, they don't necessarily work with every type of router. And this can catch you off guard or catch you by surprise, because the novice or someone that's not familiar just thinks that it's going to work with everything. Now, there are 2 types of routers that are out there. There's a 2.4 and there's a 5 gigahertz. Now, I won't get into the details of each, but again, make sure that before you set up to install, read the back of your wireless security camera, your video doorbell, and look up the type of router that you have, and check the channels and make sure that they work and they're compatible. Because again, the worst thing you could do is you could start working and you could screw in that video doorbell or security camera, whatever it may be, and then you go to set everything up and then it doesn't work. So not having the correct router can hold you back and can extend the time it takes to get everything up and running. Now, then the next one is, if you're doing a wired install, is installing the NVR or DVR in a difficult location. Now, I consider a difficult location maybe up in an attic where it may be easy to get to and not a problem when it's fall or when it's spring and the temperature is, not crazy, but it could be a problem or problematic in the winter or in the summer when there's extreme heat. You want to make sure that you install your DVR NVR in a place that's fairly easy to get to. You do want it out of the way so that if the worst case scenario happens and someone breaks in and they don't take it, but you want to make sure that it's secured somewhere. So maybe in like a storage closet or a closet, maybe mounted in a basement somewhere. Don't make it in a difficult place because it's convenient. You want to make it and slide it in an easier place. You may need to use a little bit more wiring, a little bit more cabling, but don't put it in that difficult place because that will make things a challenge for you later on. It'll be perfect for you again in the spring or in the fall. But if you're climbing up in your attic or you're trying to get through a crawl space in the summer and the winter, in the summer it's 108 degrees up there, you're gonna regret that decision. So make sure you plan out where you're going to install the DVR NVR and consider some of the pros and cons of the location or locations that you're planning on installing it. So number 4 is installing the NVR or DVR in the wrong or difficult location. Number 5, and this one is one that I've actually encountered a few different times, and when I was setting up different systems and not just a security camera, is not writing down the username and password. It's so easy to just set up a username and password when you are going through and you're just trying to get to the end. Maybe you've already done all the wiring, you spent 3 hours putting up all the different cameras, and then it comes time to either install the app or configure your NVR DVR, and you just kind of use a quick username and password that you don't necessarily remember. You want to make sure that you write that down because worst case scenario, if you don't remember your username and password, either you can't access the DVR NVR or you have to completely delete everything in your file or everything on your hard drive and start over. And that would be especially problematic if you moved or if you were trying to sell your equipment. So make sure that you spend a couple minutes, write down or take a screenshot of the username and password, store it on your computer, or store it somewhere where you're going to access. And the other part to that is remember where you stored it. That's the second issue is sometimes you'll write it down and you'll store it somewhere, but you'll forget where you stored it. So make sure that you write it down, store it, and remember where you store it. Store it on a computer, something that you're going to keep over long term. I recommend not storing it on a phone because we switch phones often. Phones can be lost or stolen and factory reset. So don't necessarily store it on a phone, but that's an option for you as well. Number 6 is not performing a dry run before installing the cameras. Now, what I mean by dry run, is installing or setting up where the cameras are supposed to be. Maybe doing a walk around your house or your property and just putting them where they should go and testing it, testing the length, make sure you have the appropriate length cabling, check and make sure there aren't any issues like any obstructions in the way. Maybe you've got trees that you didn't anticipate being there and you have to create a game plan for that. One of the issues that you can run into very easily is if you just go around and install your cameras and then you hook everything up and you look and you realize where you installed it, you can't really see anything. So that'll be problematic. Or, there's too many obstructions, or even the opposite is it's catching too much data, and so there's a lot of false flags. So you want to make sure that you go around and you do a dry run. I recommend hooking up all of your cameras, making sure that they work, and even placing the cameras where they're going to be and hook them up and make sure that they work before actually cutting holes and drilling and all of that good stuff. Over on the securitycameraguy.com, I actually have a picture of me doing a dry run for a security camera that I have on an awning or an overhang so that I can make sure it's catching what it needs to catch. Doing it this way, you can adjust where the camera should be and you don't have any issues with multiple holes going into your home or your area. So that's number 6, not performing a dry run before installing the cameras. Number 7 is not buying the correct security camera for your needs. All too often, and I see this when I installed mine and a few other security cameras talking with other people, is unfortunately we kind of get caught up in what other people are buying and doing and not necessarily understanding security cameras and their limitations and having unrealistic expectations and expecting that the security camera that your next door neighbor has is also going to completely different needs. Two two totally different requirements. So you want to make sure you spend some time figuring out exactly what's best for you, what's best for your needs, and get the appropriate security camera or cameras plural to have the correct coverage area and to meet your needs. Number 8 is buying based on cost. One of the worst things that you can do is you'll buy a security camera or a security camera system based on the amount of money you can afford at that point of time. So what that usually means is that it limits your camera setup to maybe 1 or 2 cameras or 3 at most, and you're buying a DVR, NVR that might be old or outdated. That can be problematic because your home may need 5 security camera systems, and now you have to go back and kind of you have to go back and drill more holes, and you have to run more wire. Instead of just buying based on cost, wait a couple more months and save a few more dollars and buy that security camera so that you just do one install. It takes you a whole day if need be to do one, instead of it taking you 2 or 3 or 4 days to upgrade over time. Now, obviously, if that's your only option, you do what you got to do, but buying based on cost has a number of limitations, and it also makes your security camera system kind of limited to the date and time that you're currently at. For example, we're currently in a weird space where you can buy a standard definition security camera for very cheap, or you can spend a lot of money and buy a 4K system. Now, probably somewhere in the middle, a 1080, a regular high definition camera, security camera system is probably going to meet your needs. But if you spring for the cheap, low cost, standard definition 480i, the lower end, you're going to regret that decision in 3 years, where the standard for everything is 4K and maybe even 8K if we ever get that far. So don't just buy on cost, and don't let cost be your primary factor. Consider some of the other things as well, like future proof and what your home needs or your security requirements need. So that's number 8. Number 9 is buying a closed system, and what I mean by that is if you're buying a wired system or a wired setup. On the back, there are a number of channels. The number of channels, let's say 8, a DVR or NVR has an 8-channel system. And basically what that means is 8 security cameras can fit, a maximum of 8 security cameras can fit in that DVR, NVR. What I recommend is plan for the future and always have the idea in the back of your mind that you're going to add a few more security cameras. Now, if you need 4 security cameras right now, look for a system that's 8, 12, or 16, just so that if you want to go back and add systems later on or add cameras later on, you won't be limited. You won't have to go out and buy a new DVR, NVR and have to figure out how to transfer data over. Always give yourself some room for upgrading and improvement so that you're not locked in. Again, buying a closed system can be problematic. If you need 4 cameras and you're buying a wired system, look for a DVR, NVR that has at least 8, 12, 16, 32. Now, the good thing with these systems is you don't have to have anything plugged into them. If there's nothing plugged in, they automatically detect that they're not being used, so there's nothing you have to worry about there. Last but not least, when mistakes that you can make when it comes to installing your security camera system is not considering the additional monthly cost. Now, depending on the type of security camera system that you buy, if it's wireless, let's say it's a Ring video doorbell and you're buying some Ring products, there is a monthly charge for that. While the monthly charge isn't expensive right now, it could be increased at any time. And it's an additional cost that most people don't realize or think about or factor in when making a purchase. The Ring cameras, I believe, are like $10 a month. If you don't buy it, you don't have access to recorded videos. You can only access it live. There are other limitations with that. So definitely, if you are planning on buying a security camera system, think about the additional monthly cost and think about if the cost is going to increase in the future. One thing that I don't like about the Ring video doorbells and the Ring security cameras is that right now it's, I think, $10 a month. In a year and a half from now, they could increase it to $15 a month, and you really don't have a recourse because all of your saved videos are already on their network. You can't download them. You can download them, but you'd have to go through and download them manually, which could be a problem. So that was a 10. If you want to see the complete 18 mistakes people make when installing security cameras, head on over to thesecuritycameraguy.com. I have the full list of 18. Also, if you've not done so already, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Also, comment below if you have any questions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.